Yeah. But Lord. Yeah. We sell crack to our own out the back of our homes. We smell the musk of the dusk.
What's up, family? Welcome to Ask to My Odds,
where we challenge you to stop playing and start pushing.
This is my sensational wife, Fiona.
And this is my strong husband, Ayuze. Alright, y'all, welcome to Ask the Ma'ats. Who are the Ma'ats? We are the Ma'ats. We are married. What do? We answer your questions. We give our advice. We give our opinions, and we always keep it 100%
real.
Real. Alright, y'all, we're going to get right into our question for today. When two people come from two totally different family backgrounds and upbringings, does that have a big effect on your marriage? Especially when one person comes from a low-income background and the other person comes from a middle-class background. Please share an example and tell me why. All right, y'all, this is a good one. This is a good one. Get close, listen up. We really think that this comes down to one word. One word. And that word is exposure, or the lack thereof. I mean, if you're living your life, growing up, going through your life, you become an adult and you live your life in a 1 mile radius, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, you've just been around your way. And then you meet someone else and they've, done some things and experienced some things and been some places and have some ideas that are totally foreign to you. We would call that lack of exposure. When two people have to come together, there's lack of exposure from both sides. Yeah. Whether it's middle class background, low income background, let me tell you something. You can have a middle class person come to the table, right? And they have all of this exposure and ways of knowing and thinking from their world. And the low income person they don't understand it, they don't get that. But it can also be the other way around. The person who has the street knowledge, the person who knows how to make a dollar stretch, the person who has had to tap into some creativity that the middle class person didn't have to, they got some know-how and some exposure that the middle class person just doesn't have. Okay. So when we talk about coming together in marriage and we talk about two people being able to merge themselves, the struggle here is that people typically don't want to come outside of who they have been, who they are, what they know. They don't want to be exposed. Okay, so yeah, there are going to be some concrete differences, but typically we just resist exposure. I don't want to know your way. I don't understand how your mama did that, and I'm not getting down with how your granddaddy did that. This is how it should be done. That's whether you're low income.
You're preaching right now.
Or whether you're middle class. I mean, let's get to an example. I know you have an example for everybody, but this is real.
On fire.
I'm on fire. I mean, because really it comes down to this, y'all, the whole judgment piece. This is what you hear us say in many of our videos, that we judge each other. And what we've got to do is, if we would first stop judging, then we will prime our minds for being able to accept and understand and internalize other ways of doing and being. Because ultimately, that's what we have to do in marriage. We have to merge our stuff. Yeah. We have to merge our views and our ways. And that means that some of our stuff has to fall away. So get to the example. I'm sorry. I know I am kind of going a little bit.
If we look at the natural consequence that might possibly come with a lower income background, one of those words that we throw out there is scarcity or scarcity. In a situation like that, if you're coming from a space of scarcity, then your mentality might be such where you have to preserve, you have to conserve, and you have to make sure that you get by on the least. And so in that type of situation, you're going to enter into a relationship from a space of trying to protect what it is that you have, because you don't know if what you have is going to be there any longer. Or the person operating from a space of scarcity could be so protective and so hell-bent on preserving what it is that they have that they actually operate from a space of fear. They fear to take the risk, to take the chances, to explore and go beyond that 1 mile radius. On the flip side, if you enter into a relationship operating from a mentality in a space of overabundance.
Just grew up just having it good.
You just had whatever you wanted to have.
Didn't have to worry.
Yeah, there's a possibility that you might be in that relationship and be wasteful. You might not be as frugal as you need to be in a relationship. You might not be as mindful of some of the small details that need to be tended to, because when you were growing up, you could do whatever and it was all good. So the ramifications of the two different mentalities could be significant if you don't learn how to merge those two mindsets and learn how to work that thing out together.
All right, here's our example. You have the family who has the person who came from the low-income background, and they never ever threw any leftovers away. Leftovers were for the next day and the next day until they were gone, and you had to eat everything up off your plate because we ain't wasting nothing. We ain't got money to throw away. Okay, and then you have the person who grew up and they weren't really paying attention to the food that was coming in and going out. You didn't eat everything, and you threw it in the trash and you were done, and you certainly didn't do leftovers. Nobody want that, right? And so then you have those two folks come together and they get married, and now they're sitting at the table, and one person is telling the child, eat everything on that plate, and you ain't getting up until you do it.
Children in Africa are starving.
Children in Africa are starving, and we are going to eat everything on these plates, and we're going to have leftovers until they're gone, and then we'll move on to the next meal. And then you have the other person saying, wait a minute, come on now. I mean, you're going to make, mealtime something that's dreaded. The children ain't even going to like, mealtimes. They're going to think about having meals with the family when they get older. They're going to be traumatized. They had to sit there for 2 hours chewing the same old piece of chicken. And, oh my gosh, this needs to be a time of, coming together and spending time and eating a good meal, not stress.
I'm laughing because I've done some of this.
And I was saying the stuff that I'm saying. Chill out, man. Right? But what we had to learn to do, and that's what we're basically saying to each of you, we had to learn how to let some of that stuff die. There is value to what my husband says, in that, there are some expectations. We're not going to just go buy food, make food all the time, and y'all just push it to the side and say, I'm only going to eat this. We're just not going to do that. We're not going to create that habit and not put down any expectations for what needs to happen at the table. But there's also value to what I'm saying. We ain't going to have no military up at my table. We're not going to say, eat it all. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We ain't doing that either because they are children. And so you have to have some room for folks to be able to move with some freedom in that.
And that's not even necessarily reserved for like middle and lower class backgrounds. I mean, because the reality is that you could be a middle class family and still be saying, eat your food and don't be throwing nothing away.
Right.
And then on the flip side, you could be a lower class family and you could be saying, I don't care. I mean, I'll find a way to get the food that I need to get, and I'll make sure that we eating somehow.
Right. Because how many of us have seen that no matter what, you can have a few people in the same household, they come up with the same set of circumstances, and they interpret those things and internalize those things differently. So at the end of the day, we have to learn how to die a little bit, lean back a little bit, lean back, and let your spouse come forward. And both of you have to be doing that with each other. Yes, it's a challenge. Yes, it's difficult, but it's only difficult because we don't want to be exposed. We don't want the exposure that we so desperately need so that we can continue to grow and stretch ourselves. Stop resisting it. Stop playing and start pushing.
I woke up.